Hi, I'm Ivan Heng and I'm the director for the Butterfly Lovers.
I'm Richard Mills, Artistic Director of Victorian Opera, based in Melbourne. And for the Butterfly Lovers, I'm the composer and the conductor.
It's a story that's familiar to all of us. Cathy-Di, a young woman, disguises herself as a man in order to receive an education. So on the way to this academy, she meets a fellow scholar, Liang Shanpo, and they develop a very intense friendship and a relationship. It is very much about this forbidden love, regardless of your family, your class, your gender and sexuality in this case. Their love ends quite tragically, but also transcendentally. Ultimately, it's a story that says love conquers all.
I first saw Ivan in 2002 in the Melbourne production of Emily of Emerald Hill, and I was struck by his virtuosic acting and his theatrical intelligence. I thought this is someone I would like to collaborate with in the future if we ever did an Australian-Asian collaboration.
It started when I received a phone call from Richard Mills in 2015 when we were in Brisbane performing The Importance of Being Earnest. He says, "Ivan, will you come and see me?" So I say, sure. And of course, at that time, I don't know who Richard Mills is. I had to Google him. And when I arrived, he tells me that he saw me in a production of Emily of Emerald Hill in Melbourne, and that he had stood up for me and gave me a standing ovation, and that now he wanted to work with me and that I could direct any opera of my choice.
And he said, now what I would really like to do is make some new work with your company. And so I said, well, what subjects would suit you? And he came up with the idea of Butterfly Lovers. And so we worked on that basis, and Joel Tan was then engaged to do the libretto, and the rest is kind of history.
We wanted to create a work that would bring together both our artists and our audiences from Melbourne and Singapore. And I think that opera, Western opera, because it's just a pinnacle art form that brings together art, music, drama, the capacity of the human voice to express emotion, would kind of lend itself to telling this epic love story.
All of the opera comes from the libretto. The text is very important. It's like the text is the scaffolding on which you build the building. And if the text is faulty, then you immediately have problems. But Joel is a very intuitive writer. He's also a writer of great craft for the theatre.
I introduced Richard to Samuel Wong from the Teng Ensemble, introduced him to the pipa and the dizi and a whole range of Chinese instruments. Richard, who is such an accomplished composer, says, I want to learn this. So again, for him, it was a risk and a leap into the dark, something new. From then, Richard went to take Chinese orchestra lessons and meet musicians in Australia to teach him how to write for these instruments.
And this certainly was a challenge and took quite a deal of time to find the right way of writing for them, but I think we've achieved it. I think the great theme is the necessity of the permission to love, and that has a very, very appropriate resonance in Singapore and in fact throughout the world currently.
So I think that it is a tale that is universal and timeless, and it has an important message. And in Joel's libretto, he tells us that there is a love that exists beyond this world, beyond language, beyond form, beyond thought. And I think that just so beautifully encapsulates this idea, this feeling of love and what it means to love.
My dear citizens of Singapore, a city we love very much in Melbourne, we're sister cities.
Please come and experience The Butterfly Lovers at the Victoria Theatre. It plays from the 3rd to 7th of May. Just 5 performances and tickets are going fast.